Here are 3 tips to help you become better at MW2 and Warzone 2.0. Alright y'all, so the first step I want to talk about today is centering, and then we're going to go into know your gun, and the last thing we're going to talk about is know your surroundings as well as the minimap. So they're going to be relatively quick, and let's get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is centering. So for centering, you want to look at the little middle dot right in front of your screen. And so before I get into that, I want to show y'all the setting that I want y'all to kind of turn off. So you want to go over to interface, and you want to go to crosshair bobbing or whatever. You want to turn that off. Because if you do that, like your crosshair would just stay static, would just stay in one place rather than just kind of like move around. Like if you have it on, it would just kind of like move around. So if you have it at one place, all you have to do is just focus that center dot into places where people would typically like to be at. And you will know this, or you'll pick up on these type of things. Like the more you play the game, the more you pick up, the more you play the maps in particular. So for example, like let's say you're in this general area, right? So people would like to be right here, maybe like to be at the gate right here, or maybe like they like to be on this head, like little head glitch, or maybe they like to be in that little place. Notice how I'm putting my center dot in places where people like to be at, right? I'm not putting it on walls, I'm not putting it on cars, I'm not putting it in places where they'll just not necessarily be. So every time like I'm looking at some place, I'm always like mindful of where I put my center dot. One of the biggest tips that I'll give you when you're coming with centering is your sensitivity. So the higher your sensitivity or the lower your sensitivity, whatever it may be, like if you're not in full control of your sensitivity, then your crosshair placement as well as your centering is not going to be as smooth, and you're not going to get the best benefit that you would get if your centering was on point, right? Or if your sensitivity was on point. Another thing that I want to talk about is don't just center on the ground, right? I see people like kind of like walking around like looking downwards, or walking around looking a little bit too high. Don't do that, because if you do, you're not looking at places where people would be, right? So for example, if somebody is right here in this general area, right? If I'm looking down and if I see somebody, I'm typically going to start going down and start going up, right? Or by the time I try to snap on them, they already got a couple shots into me. And one, if that happens, you're pretty much dead because the TTK is so fast. And two, you're not ready for that gunfight. Same thing as if you're looking upwards, right? You want to be at places where, like, let's say if somebody's right here, you want to be right on their chest, or typically like on their upper torso area. Like right here, for example, you centering at places where people want to be at, like right behind the heady, or like right there, for example, or people like to just kind of like camp like right there, or like that real building, or if you're like kind of like trying to get into this gunfight right here, you're already centered at that place. You never want to center at a wall or on the ground or a top or a little bit too high when you're getting ready for a gunfight, right? So for example, like if I'm getting ready for a gunfight, I never want to center here and then try to like mess up, like try to kind of like move my aim or move my crosshair to that person. Don't do that. Always be ready for that gunfight, because if you're not, you're going to die, right? I'm ready for that gunfight. I'm ready for that gunfight. But the thing is, you never want to jump out like a maniac out here anyways, but just for the tutorial, you want to be ready for that gunfight, right? Or like let's say somebody's like right behind here, you're ready for the gunfight. You're ready for that gunfight, right? Or right here, you're ready for that. So the second thing I want to talk about today is knowing your gun, right? So with knowing your gun means recoil control, as well as what gun you are typically using, whether that be an SMG, an AR, or whatever, right? If you're using an AR, right? Let's say I'm using right now, I'm using the SCAR, right? I want to be in places that gives me a long line of sight. You don't want to be in places that are cramped up like this, right? Because if you have an AR and you're sitting here or you're whatever, somebody can just, right? So let's say I have an SMG, right? Somebody can just do this and just completely like just destroy you, right? Because if you have an SMG, or then you're probably going to win that gunfight. So with an AR, you want to be at places where you have a really long line of sight. So right here, we're looking out over there. You want to be able to look at that area. You want to come over here, look at that area. So you want your distance as much as possible. I'm not saying if you have an AR, you can't be in these tight spaces. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying more often than not, you want to be at places where you have a long line of sight and you're able to kind of like maneuver like these type of spots, so you can like have these type of areas instead of like coming into here and being in the SMG like type of world, right? So if you have an SMG, your playstyle becomes completely different, right? you don't ever want to be in these middle lanes, like ever, because if you do, you're pretty much dead with somebody camping over there, or literally in the 5 to 1,050 directions that there are over here, right? You don't ever want to be in those type of scenarios. If you have an SMG and if you're spawning here, you want to get on the other side of the map, use your buildings, use the gun that you have. Like you can kind of shoulder this if somebody's there, you can kind of run over here, right? Now it's easy for you to be in these type of small places, right? You can kind of dolphin dive here, you can kind of clear that area, and now you're in the perfect spot to use your SMG, right? Whether you're going upstairs or whether you're going here, now you're in a perfect spot. Right here, you're in a perfect spot to like challenge these type of fights. So the biggest thing I would say with knowing your gun, again, the biggest thing I would say is regardless of the type of gun that you have, you will want to stay on the outskirts of the map. Because if you're on the outskirts, it's easier for you to kind of pick people off as they're coming to the middle if you want to get a lot more kills. If you have an AR, you can just kind of go to places where there are long lines of sight, and if you have an SMG, it's easier for you to kind of be in these tight corners and tight spaces, because one, you can maneuver easily, you can move easily, you can do whatever you want to do because you have an SMG, right? So with these recoils, it's kind of easy. Like the more you play the game, the more you play the gun, the more comfortable you are with that gun, it's easier for you to kind of control the recoil. And it's very, very important to practice your recoil pattern as well, because the better you are at controlling your recoil, the easier it is to win your gunfights, right? Because you're hitting majority of your shots to that person, right? So knowing my surroundings or knowing my map means I already know where that building is, regardless if I see it or not, right? So I'm right here, right? So now all I gotta do is just do this, right? Or for example, like let's say somebody's like camping right there, right? This is the perfect scenario. If somebody's like right there or right here, I don't want to just do this, have them see me first and then just get shot and die, right? I don't want to do that. I want to challenge that gunfight by knowing exactly where I want to aim, so I can just kind of like slow peek this, like slow play it, and just kind of aim right there. Somebody's over there, or kind of just move my analog to the right a little bit and then just aim like this. You get what I'm saying? So knowing your surroundings not only means like you know exactly where to aim or where to look, it means what type of like how you can use your surroundings to help you win that gunfight. So for example, I see somebody there, right? If I don't want to just go like this, I can just do this, right? And from their eyes, from their perspective, what they're looking at is something like this, right? What they're looking at is you just dolphin dive, and from their eyes, like let's say like they're camping right here, from their eyes, all you have to do is just peek that, right? They're not gonna know what you're about to hit them with. In that scenario, let's say you're right here, right? Now you're trapped, quote unquote trapped, right? You can use the map that you have to kind of do this. You get what I'm saying? So the more you play these games and the more you play the map, you know like the tips and tricks, like how you would kind of like maneuver some of these places. Like for example, somebody's like sitting right here, right? You don't want to just run out like a bot and just come over here and then be in their line of sight, because at this point, by the time you're over here, you're gonna die anyways, right? But instead, you can just challenge that gunfight like this, or you can challenge that gunfight from the top and just jumping downwards so you can see them first before they see you, stuff like that. And so instead of like you again challenging the gunfight like this, you can know your centering like we talked about earlier, like this. You can already center there, you already know where to look. You can already center there, you already know where to look, right? Center there, you already know where to look. Or you can jump over here, center there, you already know where to look, right? So now let's talk about what you can do to kind of maneuver around the map, right? Or to kind of use the map as in your advantage, right? For example, somebody is standing right here, right? Holding that, right? Instead of you just running over here, you're probably gonna die, right? What you can do is you can just come over here and you can just dolphin dive there, and then now you can't be seen, right? Now you can just play it how you want, right? If you want, like you can just kind of jump peek this to see if they're gonna peek you. You can come over here, you can come over here. You can do however many different ways to challenge that gunfight. But the first thing that you did though, instead of just running out, all you did was just dolphin dive, right? You dolphin dive into cover, now you're in a good place to kind of challenge that gunfight. If you want, like instead, like you usually wouldn't do this in this map, but if you kind of come over here, you know what I'm saying? Like you can use the map instead of you running over here and to just 5 different directions. You can come over here, you can just dolphin dive in this area, and you can challenge that gunfight. So this right here is like combining everything that we talked about to this, right? Let's say you have an SMG. You're centering already in these 2 windows, right? Or you're centering in places where they're gonna be, like right there, or maybe like if they're camping there or whatever, right? But if you have an SMG, you don't just want to just keep running out. Like if you want to get there, you don't want to run out here and die, right? You don't ever want to do that, because if you do, what they're going to be holding that lane and you're probably going to die, right? You there's somebody there, you can take them out. If not, you can do this, right? Because now that you're here, you dolphin dive in this area, they can't see you. Like they don't know where you went. Now from their eyes, you went over here, whatever, right? So now that you're on the advantage. Like instead of you coming straight here with an SMG and just trying to challenge or trying to run over here and die, you come over here from a different angle. Now you use what you have to your advantage. You can come over here if you want. You can dolphin dive here, and you can like try to challenge from these. You can use the advantage that you have with an SMG, kind of come into these doors, right? Come into these houses. You can use here, right? You can do whatever you need with that. Or even like if you're in this situation, like let's say like they're all just camping there. Let's say you're playing search or whatever, the person's just camping there. You can come over here, jump up, kill them, right? If not, like you can like be in that situation and like fight there. You can come over here and jump over here and like be in this situation and just fight them. Whatever it is, you have an SMG to kind of play on your advantage. So like I was talking about earlier, you want to use what you have to your advantage, right? So for example, like this car right here, I can use this as an advantage to kind of jump up and see somebody there, right? Or for example, here, I can use this car right here as an advantage to kind of just crouch over and just do this, right? I can use this barricade as an advantage to kind of just snake, strafe into it or whatever. I can use this as an advantage to do the same thing in the back. I can dolphin dive here, do the same thing here. You know what I'm saying? Like, or somebody's like, let's say like somebody's right here, right? I can use, I'm already centering there, right? So like I'm already centering in that place, as well as already using my my situational advantage by jump peeking, right? By jump peek, I kind of like slightly break the camera, but not really. Like you can do a lot more things situationally that can help you like win majority of your gunfights, right? Let's say you're coming up here, somebody's over there, right? You're not expected to reach out from the same angle. Like don't reach out from the same angle. Come back here, look at a different angle. Like use your surroundings, use the buildings, use the windows, use whatever you can. But that is the 3 tips I have for you today. Like the first thing, centering; second thing, knowing your gun, recoil pattern, whatever, etc. And the last part is knowing your surroundings and using everything to your advantage. So I really hope this helped you today, and if it does, leave a like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below. I got a lot of love in my last tips video, and I really appreciate that.